It's no secret that the once incredibly beloved MCU has been facing a steady decline post-Endgame, both critically and financially, with one clear-cut exception. Marvel's reputation sunk even lower when releases like Multiverse of Madness, Love and Thunder,
The name is Mighty Thor!
Not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
She-Hulk Attorney at Law,
Become a vigilante that is for billionaires and narcissists and adult orphans for some reason.
and Wakanda Forever were thrown onto our screens back to back to back.
You got anything to say?
I hate manure.
Well everyone, Phase 5 has arrived with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Scott Lang's third solo outing since his debut in 2015. How does it compare to past releases? Is Disney Marvel back on track? Will Phase 5 redeem the MCU? Before we get started, here's a heads up, there will of course be major spoilers throughout the video, so consider yourself warned. Set after the events of previous films, Scott Lang is now a best-selling author and publicly recognized superhero who's living a normal life with Hope and his daughter Cassie, with whom he has a rocky relationship. Cassie, unbeknownst to Scott and Janet Van Dyne, with the supposed help of Hank Pym and Hope, built a satellite that sends a signal into the quantum realm. This machine is supposed to help map out the realm without having to step foot inside. In a panic, Janet destroys the machine and they're all Jumanji'd into the quantum realm, where Kang the Conqueror awaits to enact revenge on Janet, who left him there to die years prior. First off, the plot is a mess, even with the narrative at first glance remaining simple. We're trapped in the quantum realm and we need to get out before Kang and his army close in on us. The problem is that the film adds so many subplots and ideas but never fully develops any of them. Let me explain. The film has 9 different plot threads, with the main one being Scott and Cassie's relationship, Kang's quest for the inner core's restoration, which is his only means of escaping the quantum realm, MODOK aka Darren Cross's redemption, our protagonist finding a way to leave the quantum realm, and finally Janet coming to terms with her past. This is already a handful to deal with, but then we add things like the refugees of Kang's hostile takeover who want to rise against him, Hank Pym and his self-developing smart ants, Janet and Hope's unmended relationship, and last but not least Cassie's desire to help others. For the film's 125-minute runtime, there is too much on the table. Now, instead of writing out entire subplots, Quantumania tries to juggle all of them but doesn't spend enough time developing any. This results in most getting a beginning and a middle, but no end, coming full circle but lacking any real substance. This is what happens to MODOK, for example. Meanwhile, others are forgotten and shoehorned in at the very end. Case in point, Hank Pym's smart ants, who serve as one of the dumbest examples of a Deus Ex Machina in recent memory.
What a load of shit.
By the time the film reaches its conclusion, nothing feels earned, as many of the plot beats are reached due to contrivances, ultimately feeling like a game being played on easy mode.
Brutality. There are fates worse than death. Noob Saibot wins.
Keep in mind, this is the same writer who's taking care of the next Avengers script, you know, the ultimate superhero ensemble production that has to juggle multiple arcs and storylines.
Is that the best you can do?
You had to ask.
Alright, it's not all that bad. There are some good aspects of the film's writing, mainly its execution of setups and constant escalation during action sequences. Again, it's very hard to keep praising something as basic as setups, Marvel, although Quantumania does a far better job compared to the rest of Phase 4 and even a recent critically acclaimed film. For the action sequences, each one tries to be fresh, ramping up scale and being creative, even though most don't make sense when considering the rules Quantumania provides us and not forgetting the already established MCU lore. The film sadly continues Phase 4's trend of messing around with Marvel's world building.
Every step you took to get here, I paved the road. You just walked down it.
Kang vs. Ant-Man in a full-blown fistfight to the death was one of the best parts of the movie. When it comes to the Quantum Realm's world design, at first glance there are some unique aspects, like the buildings being alive and a few interesting creatures inspired by microorganisms. Too bad it doesn't last, becoming a blatant rip-off. Not homage, a rip-off of Star Wars. Come on, they even had a cantina sequence and Mon Calamari, for Christ's sake.
I'll have the calamari.
Well, I guess I'll have the insensitive bitch with a side of you.
Quantumania suffers from the same problem as Thor Love and Thunder. Everything is undercut by comedy, through insufferable out-of-place dialogue that drags scenes on in the same vein as Ghostbusters 2016.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, did you want to?
Sorry, I'll let you.
Next time.
This, in turn, affects the film's tone, struggling to switch effortlessly from humorous to serious in succession, leaving a negative impact on the film's pacing, which isn't helped by some obvious editing mistakes that pull you out of the story. This is what I like to call the domino effect. The last thing I'll touch on concerning the plot is highlighting how disconnected the MCU has become. Hank Pym's ants can now make their own technology and even build advanced civilization despite them just being mind-controlled insects who don't understand the inner workings of a machine. It now feels like commonplace in the MCU for anyone to access insane technology, granting unfathomable levels of power.
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.
There's even a little jab at the original Iron Man when Hank Pym tells Scott, your daughter built a subatomic Hubble telescope in a basement.
Stop it. Get some help.
Finally, the quantum realm can now be entered without an advanced tech suit. How's this possible? Let's hear it from Hank Pym himself. We should be dead. Why aren't we? I don't know. On the character side, we have Scott, Hope, Cassie and Janet as our main protagonist, while Kang and MODOK are our prime antagonists. Hank Pym is here too, but doesn't do anything except bring in a Deus Ex Machina and tell us he's a big fan of socialism. I'll start with our main antagonist, Kang the Conqueror. Of course, this isn't the same version we saw in Loki, but is still played by Jonathan Majors, whose performance felt like a breath of fresh air, dominating almost every scene with gravitas. The character of Kang, however, is incredibly inconsistent, ranging from towering, calm, godlike figure to a spoiled child bursting into a fit of rage whenever something is out of his reach. The film also entertains the idea of him not being fully in control of his mind. Janet Van Dyne at one point says the suit is what makes Kang the Conqueror, which actually confused me. Despite these issues, there is clear room for development to make Kang a great villain. We've already been given signs of an inner conflict concerning his goal, which can be further explored through his past, although his motivations remain too weak, almost inexistent for now. Considering this was his first outing and Kang is going to be Phase 5's big bad, it's a shame we only got to see his surface level presence with no underlying substance, adding to the long list of one-dimensional MCU villains.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Sadly, MODOK, aka Darren Cross, is actually the character who had the most potential and could have gone through an incredible redemption arc with all the elements needed for a tragic but poignant demise already present within the script. In the end, however, he was treated as an utter joke by not only the writers but our protagonist as well, while constantly being belittled by Kang and even having his sacrifice treated as a gag.
Guys, for a second there, we made a pretty good team. Oh, it's so hard to go. I just love being around you guys so much.
His suit design was actually decent and he managed to come off as a menacing, ruthless killer when first appearing for a full 30 seconds, which ends of course once we see his face.
Well.
MODOK was a broken man, clouded by revenge who needed guidance on choosing which path would lead to becoming whole again, to finally feel human after all this time. And he was used as a dick joke. When it comes to our protagonists, the roster isn't any better. Hope and Janet suffer from the same problem as Hank Pym. They're one-dimensional and only used in service of the plot. Janet serves as two things: an exposition provider for all things quantum, and a complement to Kang's story, which in itself is just providing more exposition. Hope, on the other hand, only serves to save Scott at two crucial moments near the film's end.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
Equally contributing to the problem is how Hank, Hope and Janet were stuck together in a subplot that led nowhere for their characters. How can we solve this issue? Well, why not keep them outside the quantum realm actively working on fixing the satellite to bring Scott and Casey back home before Kang kills them? In one fell swoop, you've managed to set the goal, stakes and urgency, also known as the three key elements to any story, the same way developing characters, moving the narrative forward and providing information is key to a perfect scene. Why stop there when we can add extra layers? With both women forced to work together, have them clash over Janet's secrets that have been hindering their relationship and taking a toll on Hope. With Janet's knowledge of the quantum realm necessitated, we still get the required exposition, although this time killing two birds with one stone. She not only comes to terms with her past actions, but also mends her relationship with Hope. In the end, you'll get a one-on-one drama between mother and daughter on Earth, while Scott and Cassie settle their differences with the added external conflicts of Kang and MODOK in the quantum realm. Everyone's gone through an arc by the time the credits start rolling.
Sometimes my genius it's almost frightening.
Despite the poor material, Michelle Pfeiffer was able to pull off an above-average performance, although I can't say the same for Evangeline Lilly, whose level of quality varied from scene to scene. Finally, our two main protagonists, Scott and Cassie. The former takes the role of a parent trying to connect with his daughter after years of absence, while the latter is distant, mean, and downright disrespectful to her father, despite him being the only one consistently making an effort to mend the relationship. As you can tell, Cassie is on par with She-Hulk on the likability scale.
As far as I can tell.
Alright, let's get to the chase. The real issue with Cassie's character is that she tells the audience one thing, but her actions show the opposite. Her main arc consists of two things. Firstly, wanting to help others in her own way, which is fine, but poorly executed with the revolution against Kang's subplot. Secondly, wanting to forgive her father for abandoning her, and him not doing anything else to save the world after the events of Endgame.
See, now that's some bullshit.
Concerning the abandonment issues, at almost every available turn, the film demonstrates how much Ant-Man is willing to do for Cassie. He loves her, not in an overprotective way, in a genuine, caring, normal and humane way. Although she and almost everyone clown him for trying to be a good father. By showing the audience this, we get the sense that she just doesn't want him in her life for no apparent reason. Now, concerning her resentment towards him for trying not to help other people off the streets after the blip's aftermath, what the actual fuck is he supposed to do? Hope's multi-million-dollar company already builds sustainable housing, so he decided to take time off, rightfully so, after Endgame, and write a book, but is once again being clowned on for saving the world. Keep in mind, her character isn't well written, but could be more likable if she at least acknowledged Scott's efforts. Even then, Scott's new book, Look Out for the Little Guy, is shown as inspiring to kids, sharing the values of a hero.
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
Paul Rudd, as always, delivers a great performance with the material given. Although Catherine Newton, who I personally think is a talented actress that has proven herself in dramatic roles like Big Little Lies and more lighthearted outings such as Blockers and Freaky, gave one of the worst performances of the MCU to date. The only reason I'd see her being so bad would stem from the direction she was given. It's genuinely a shame.
Remember, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. You could have all the talent in the world, but if you don't do the right thing, then nothing happens.
Concerning Quantumania's score, it's a forgettable mixed bag.
Oh shit, here we go again.
The main problem is that most of the tracks blend not only between themselves, but equally with previous non-Ant-Man MCU outings. A majority are orchestral themes with little nuance made to show us the quantum realm's grandeur, sadly falling flat due to sounding incredibly similar to the initial end credit sequences from prior films.
Does that sound good to you?
No, not really, no.
Regarding the other tracks, with the exception of MODOK and Kang's, they're all derivatives, rehashes of the original Ant-Man theme, which is, by all means, a great piece of music. The use of Kang's theme is arguably the best, a low-pitched track always playing under the surface when he appears, especially during menacing scenes, letting Jonathan Majors dominate the screen. I do think the use of his music coupled with his performance is probably why people are comparing him to Thanos.
I hope they remember you.
Due to how poorly written the relationships and characters are, does the score try manipulating you during supposedly poignant scenes?
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
Yeah.
I do find it sad that Marvel didn't pay enormous attention to the score in the past phase, with WandaVision, Loki and No Way Home being the few exceptions. Quite a shame considering how memorable each hero's theme was during phases 1 through 3, and how could anyone forget Alan Silvestri's iconic The Avengers. On the cinematography side, the film feels considerably limited in creativity due to the absurd amount of CG scenes, which look exactly how you'd expect coming from overworked and underpaid VFX teams.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
Whenever the actors are outside in the quantum realm, everything looks like a set, not an actual lived-in world. The framing, prioritizing medium and wide shots, coupled with a lot of static camera, doesn't help this aspect. It goes to show that the production didn't know what CG backgrounds would be used during the initial shoot, so static would be the best option for more realistic results.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
A recent example of how to properly do it is HBO's The Last of Us, that is able to blend traditional camera work with built sets and CG backgrounds, managing not only to look and feel realistic, but can properly use framing in purpose of the narrative.
Let's keep moving.
Now, it's not all bad, or else the film would be unwatchable. There are small flares of creativity, especially when it comes to the miniature scale sequences, continuing what the first two installments did best, the most notable being the probability storm in the inner core. The film also does a considerable amount to give the viewer a sense of scale in the quantum realm when compared to our protagonist's ever-changing size. In addition, Quantumania also has a few creative landscape shots. Well, to be frank, I only counted 3, which means overall it leaves you with a bland, nauseating CG-filled screen for most of the runtime.
Not a great plan.
Did I personally enjoy the film? For the first time since this channel's inception, I genuinely do not know. Quantumania was empty. It didn't piss me off, leave me happy nor sad. Confused mostly by how it got made.
You guys have brain rot at the office and literally greenlight the worst shit imaginable. It is unreal.
I did enjoy the visuals during some sequences, but it's hard to believe this is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a franchise that to this day gives me chills when I rewatch an old trailer, literally had me lose my voice in the theater. A universe that made me experience the highest and lowest of emotional peaks a piece of media had ever given me. It was a franchise that moved me, and isn't that the goal of any good story? To make you feel something?
It was nice while it lasted, right?
Sure. It was nice while it lasted.
In the end, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was another lackluster addition to the MCU, conforming once again to its mold, filled to the brim with unnecessary jokes and mediocre VFX, while also providing elements for a great feature but never bringing any of them to complete fruition. Sadly, even with creative, colorful sequences and good performances from the likes of Jonathan Majors, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Paul Rudd, it wasn't enough to save the abysmal end product that is Quantumania, resulting in a very rocky start for the 5th phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thank you all for watching and sticking around this long. I hope you enjoyed the video. Do subscribe and drop a like if you did, and hopefully, I'll see you all next time.